Hello, professor and classmates. I will be explaining mistakes that I found in my classmates' translation as my first midterm.
Alright, so here are our mistakes, just the extracts of the final text, and let's review them one by one. The first mistake is the use of quotation marks, since in Spanish they should have been changed for a long dash instead of keeping the quotation marks. The second mistake is the translation of the plains, which was translated as los planos. It is incorrect because the correct translation indeed is las llanuras. The third mistake is the use of e unnecessarily because the message was continued and it was going to finish on some other text that needed e. The fourth mistake is the translation, which the initial text said few others and was translated as algunas pocas, I guess because of the few, but it should have been algunas otras. The next mistake is the coherence or connection within the text, and I believe it should have been fueron because we're using a past tense and son is present. This sixth mistake corresponds to this text since it was translated pretty literal and because in Spanish it's most natural to describe afterwards. I believe it should have been Atlantis fue regido por miles de años por reyes muy sabios. The next mistake is clearly the use of and in English and the text is in Spanish, so I guess that was a mistake because of using both languages. This eighth mistake, I believe, is wrong because this extract was taken out from a conversation, so the way it was translated, it sounds more formal than it should have been, so I think it sounded better if it was ya que les pertenecía a ellos. The ninth mistake is the same case as number 6, because in Spanish it's most natural to describe afterwards, so it sounded better if we'd say algo en los reyes cambió. The 10th mistake is a missing semicolon, because the message was going to be continued, but it should have been divided at least by a semicolon. And because it's followed by an adverb, it should have been igualmente, comma, so 11th is a missing comma. So last but not least, our 12th mistake is the use of the pronoun ella. Since this text was followed of a previous text that had already mentioned the character, I don't think it was necessary to use the pronoun since we already know who they're talking about. Here is the criticism work explained in a written way, so if you want to read it, you can pause it. Translation technique examples. The first example says, source language. He taught that the land, water, air belong to all people to be shared. Target language también enseñó que la tierra, el agua y el aire debía ser compartido entre toda la gente ya que a ellos les pertenecía. This is an example of compensation technique since 3 techniques were used. The first one is the transposition of the pronoun he into the adverb también. The second one is the addition of the articles el because in Spanish we mostly accompany our noun with the pronoun. The third is modulation because we are writing or expressing the last part of the text a little bit different but keeping the same message. The second example says, source language, what happened, the target language, y entonces, ¿qué sucedió? This is an addition example because we are adding y entonces, since the previous text was a conversation and the person asking wants to know what happened afterward.
Hope you liked it, and bye.